All right. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Book Club of Enoch. We'll give it about a minute and a half to get it all set up and stuff like that. Then we will be getting started. So glad if y'all here, if you're listening to this live. So cool. Thank you so much for being here. If you are not listening to this live, I don't think anyone's live here at the moment. If you're listening to this later, just thank you also for spending time. That means a lot to me that you do that. And yeah, I'm excited for this episode. It's going to be a shorter episode because, it's been a busy week. And yeah, nice and busy. So, and I did one on Thursday. So, we'll just be probably a little less busy. Not less busy. This will be a shorter episode, but it will be in preparation for an even longer episode next week. If you're new to Everyday Mythos is a YouTube channel that I run. It's also technically on Instagram and TikTok as well. So I don't know. I guess you wouldn't call it just a YouTube channel. I don't know what the right word would be. Maybe a content creative thing, whatever it is. It's a really fun thing I've been doing these past few months of trying to get biblical theological literacy out to people. I'm not a scholar myself, but I do love just like studying the Bible and looking into these ideas, some more nerdy ideas in the Bible and in theology. And I'm really just wanting to kind of use this. I'm wanting to use this YouTube channel to present some ideas and help Christians in their bubbles. A lot of times we have these bubbles we live in, kind of seeing I'd love to help us kind of understand what maybe people outside of that bubble believe. Not that the people outside of your bubble are necessarily right, but it's fascinating just to see what they believe. And maybe there's a few things they believe that you don't believe or that I don't believe that maybe we can learn from. And one thing that I'm so excited to do is help spread some literacy on the book of First Enoch, which leads us to really this right here, the Book Club of Enoch. The Book Club of Enoch is a live stream the Book Club of Enoch is a live stream that is dedicated to learning more about the Book of Enoch. We've talked before, First Enoch is a book, most of which, if not all, was written in the Second Temple Jewish period. And it's just a really fascinating text. Even though most Christians don't see it as canon, and I'm one of them, I don't see it as canon. I think that still got some merit into looking into it. So I'm going to turn on a light right here to get a little brighter. So I will be right back. Oh, that turned it off. There we go. Hooray. All right, I'm back. So without further ado, let's begin. If you're listening to this, whether it's live or later on, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comment section. Definitely, I prefer keep it respectful. That'd mean a lot to me. But yeah, then we'll see if we can answer them. I may not have the answer, but we can work through it together. And maybe we'll both end up clueless, but maybe we'll both end up clueless learning something more, or maybe we'll both find an answer to it. So without further ado, as per usual, I'm going to jump onto the screen share and we'll get started on, looking at First Enoch. Today we're going to be going over chapters 9 through good old 11. It sounds kind of like, whoa, 3 chapters? That's insane. But it's really not as bad as it sounds or crazy as it sounds because they're little bitty chapters. Chapters 10 is probably going to be the longest chapter of the Book of Enoch that we've covered so far. But chapter 11 is like a little bitty short. So as for review, so we talked about chapters 1 through 5, and we gave the idea 5 are like this first beginning prophecy and in the Book of Enoch. And then in chapter 6, we start beginning more into a story. And the story that begins 6 is like, that's the iconic thing, that when we think of Enoch, when we think of first Enoch, this book that was written probably mostly in the Second Temple Jewish period, when we think of the story of first Enoch, we think of chapters 6 and onward. I'm sure I got that kind of from somewhere, but I don't know necessarily who. But I feel like that's whenever we think of first Enoch, we think of that part, and that's the story. The story of sorry, just got a text I had to look at. So that is the story that we all think of, and it's really interesting. It's the story of where the sons of God, the angels, come down, have children with the daughters of men. We talked about how that's kind of like, it's similar to the story found in Genesis chapter 6. And basically that's what happens in chapter 6 of the book of Enoch. It continues on to see that the children that were born to these sons of God, i.e. the watchers or the angels of heaven, they had children with the daughters of men, and their children were giants. And we talked about how there's so much chaos that ensued because of these giants. Not just did these giants do evil things, including, it seems like, cannibalism to other things, like cannibalism to humans, but also cannibalism to each other. One person pointed out, it seems that they were eating each other. And in the midst of all this chaos, humanity, or the earth of sorts, the earth screamed out to heaven for help. And basically, that's one of the evil things that came about, because the sons of God came down and they sinned against God. They came down and they caused so much chaos because they saw the daughters of men, how beautiful they were, and they thought it was worth saying no to the ways of God to get what they wanted. We also saw that they spread knowledge. They spread so much knowledge. Sorry, I have a group chat going on. It kind of, something was on there that kind of was interesting or different, and that just kind of took my head out of space. I apologize. So I'll just put my phone down and we'll just continue on right here for a little bit. So basically, they also, the sons of God, the watchers, the angels of heaven, taught knowledge to the daughters of men and to their children, the Nephilim. And this knowledge was knowledge that it seems humanity was not supposed to have. And because of that as well, so much chaos ensued. So that's where we kind of left off, is they pray like this. The world was filled with violence, and the earth basically screamed out for help. The blood just went up to heaven, so to speak. And in chapter 9, we left off last week, the angels of heaven, Michael, Uriel, and other of the archangels, they see this and they plead a prayer to God for help on behalf of humanity. And this leads to chapter 9. And today we're going to look at chapter 9, chapter 10, and chapter 11. So let's begin with chapter 9. And then Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel looked down from heaven and saw much blood on the earth, and all lawlessness being wrought upon the earth. And they said one to another, the earth made without inhabitant cries the voice of their crying up to the gates of heaven. And now to you, the holy ones of heaven, the souls of men make their suit, saying, bring our cause before the Most High. And they said to the Lord of the ages, Lord of lords, God of gods, King of kings, and God of the ages, the throne of thy glory standeth unto all the generations of the ages, and thy name holy and glorious and blessed unto all the ages. Thou hast made all things, and power over all things hast thou. And all things are naked and open in thy sight, and thou seest all things, and nothing can hide itself from thee. And then it moves on, their prayer continues and says, Thou seest what Azazel has done or hath done, who hath taught all unrighteousness on earth and revealed the eternal secrets which were preserved in heaven, which men were striving to learn. And Samjaza, to whom thou hast given authority to bear rule over his associates. And they have gone to the daughters of men upon the earth, and have slept with the women, and have defiled themselves, and revealed to them all kinds of sins. And the women have borne giants, and the whole earth has thereby been filled with blood and unrighteousness. And now behold, the sons of those who have died are crying and making their suit, maybe, to the gates of heaven, and their lamentations have ascended and cannot cease because of the lawless deeds which are wrought on the earth. And thou knowest all things before they come to pass. And thou seest these things, and thou dost suffer them, and thou dost not say to us what we are to do to them in regard to these. So that's chapter 9. In chapter 9, we have the angels praying to heaven, saying basically, God, look at all the chaos that's happening on earth. We don't know, like, what you have not responded yet on what you want to do or what you want to happen. And then in chapter 10 and 11, we're going to see the response of God. Now, like we said earlier, since this is probably not, the Book of Enoch may be based on a true story. Maybe it's the proper interpretation of Genesis 6. But as we read these quote unquote words of God, I personally have a doubt that these are actually words from God. If you're an evangelical Christian, you believe the Bible is the inspired word of God, and therefore the prophecies given are God actually speaking. I don't know, and I don't think God is actually speaking here. This is just basically Second Temple Jews, I think, writing this down, pondering. So I just want to make that clear before we read it. But that doesn't mean that these words have no value. That doesn't mean that these words have nothing to say to us about Second Temple Jewish culture. Because in these words, we're going to see some stuff that looks like maybe some Second Temple Jewish views of the end of time. And that's why I think the Book of Enoch is really fascinating to read, because it helps us see how some Jews, maybe not all Jews, but some Jews living during the time of Jesus would have thought about the end times. If you walked up to a Second Temple Jew, maybe during the times of Christ, and said, hey, what do you think is going to happen in the end of days? They might bring up some Enoch related stuff. So I think that's just really cool, man. So we're going to see, I think, some of this in First Enoch chapter 10. And so in chapter 10, verse 1, it says, Then the Most High, the Holy and Great One, spake and sent Uriel to the son of Lamech, and said to him, Go to Noah, and tell him in my name, hide thyself, and reveal to him the end that is approaching, that the whole earth will be destroyed, and a deluge is about to come upon the whole earth, and will destroy all that is on it. And now instruct him that he may escape, and his seed may be preserved for all the generations of the world. And again the Lord said to Raphael, Bind Azazel, hand and foot, cast him into the darkness, and make an opening in the desert, which is in Dudael, and cast him therein, and place upon him rough and jagged rocks, and cover him with darkness, and let him abide there forever and ever, and cover his face that he may not see light. And on the day of the great judgment he shall be cast into the fire, and heal the earth which the angels have corrupted, and proclaim the healing of the earth, that they may heal the plague, and that all the children of men may not perish, through all the secret things which the watchers have disclosed and have taught their sons. And the whole earth has become corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel. To him ascribe all sin. And to Gabriel said the Lord, Proceed against the bastards and the reprobates, and against the children of fornication, and destroy the children of fornication, and the children of the watchers from against men, and cause them to go forth, and send them one against the other, that they may destroy each other in battle. For length of days shall they not have. And no request that they, i.e. their fathers, make of thee shall be granted unto their fathers, and on their behalf. For they hope to live an eternal life. that each one of them will live 500 years. In verse 11 it says, "And the Lord said unto Michael, Go, bind Simjaza and his associates, who have united themselves with women, so as to defile themselves with them in all their uncleanness. And when their sons have slain one another, and they have seen the destruction of their beloved ones, bind them fast for 70 generations in the valleys of the earth, till the day of their judgment, and of their consummation, till the judgment that is forever and ever is consummated. In those days they shall be led off to the abyss of fire, and to the torment and the prison, in which they shall be confined forever. And whosoever shall be condemned and destroyed will from thenceforth be bound together with them to the end of all generations. And destroy all the spirits of the reprobate and the children of the watchers, because they have wronged humankind. Destroy all wrong from the face of the earth, and let every evil work come to an end. And let the plant of righteousness in truth appear, and it shall prove a blessing. The works of righteousness and truth shall be planted in truth and joy forevermore. And then shall all the righteous escape, and shall live till they beget thousands of children. And all the days of their youth and their old age shall they complete in peace. And then shall the whole earth be tilled in righteousness, and shall all be planted with trees and be full of blessings. And all desirable trees shall be planted on it, and they shall plant vines on it, and the vine which they plant thereon shall yield wine in abundance. And as for all the seed which is sown thereon, each measure of it shall bear 1,000, and each measure of olive shall yield 10 presses of oil. And cleanse thou the earth from all oppression, and from all unrighteousness, and from all sin, and from all godlessness, and all the uncleanness that is wrought upon the earth, destroy from off the earth. And all the children of men shall become righteous, and all nations shall offer adoration and praise me, and all shall worship me. And the earth shall be cleansed from all defilement, and from all sin, and from all punishment, and from all torment. And I will never again send them upon it from generation to generation and forever. So that's chapter 10. And in chapter 11 is only 2 verses. And it says this, "And in those days I will open the store chambers of blessing, which are in the heaven, so as to send them down upon the earth over the work and labor of the children of men. And truth and peace shall be associated together throughout all the days of the world, and throughout all the generations of men." So that is 1 Enoch, chapters 9 through 11. A nice hefty portion right there. And it's very fascinating. It's a very fascinating portion because in chapter 9, like we said earlier, we have this the prayer of the angels coming to God and telling him of the evil that's happening on earth. And then in chapter 10, we have God's response. And what we saw is in chapter 10, God responds and he sends each of those 4 angels, these 4 angels that made their prayers up to God. I think that's what happened. He sends the 4 to do different tasks. So we saw first he gave a task to Uriel. And to Uriel, he's basically told him, go warn Noah of what's about to happen. And we'll talk more about that at the end because there's something really fascinating in that first verse, those first 2 verses right there about Uriel and him telling Noah to hide and about the flood. Then he goes on and he looks at Raphael. And to Raphael, he talks about binding Azazel. We talked about before how Azazel is the guy or the fallen angel who taught them basically darkness, who taught them so much evil things. Basically bind him and throw him into a spiritual prison. And then we also have Gabriel, and Gabriel also has a mission. And his mission, it seems, has to be with destroying the Nephilim, or the giants, that is, destroy the giants. And then we have Michael, and Michael has a job to bind another of the angels. And then his it seems, I might be wrong here, but it seems that Michael's goes on for a little bit of different things that Michael's supposed to do. And Michael binds one of the leaders, if not the leader of the Watchers, throws him away into prison, and does many other things as well. So we have these missions that each of these four archangels are to do. So chapter 9, the angels cry out to heaven, or cry out to God. In chapter 10, we have God sending the angels. And I apologize, I don't know if they're the archangels. I know Michael's considered an archangel, but I don't know if all of them are called archangels. But God sends the angels to do certain works. And then chapter 11 kind of continues God's speech. And he says, in those days, I will open the store chambers of blessing, which are in the heaven, so as to send them down upon the earth over the work and labor of the children of men. And truth and peace shall be associated together throughout all the days of the world and throughout all the generations of men. So as you were hearing that or reading chapter 10, it sounded almost like the end times. Like that didn't really sound merely like what happened after the flood. Because this takes place before the flood, and the flood is part of the punishment to come, according to Enoch, for the wickedness on the world because of the giants. But whenever we read about what Michael was supposed to do, it seems that a lot of it seemed very much more of like an end times thing. And so it makes you wonder if God's not just talking about the immediate post-flood world, or is he talking also about a future date? So Michael Heiser, in his companion to the Book of Enoch, which I would highly recommend, like if you're a believer in Christ who is interested in the Book of Enoch, I would definitely recommend the commentary that Heiser does on volumes 1 and 2. He has that on the Book of the Watchers, the first part, and also the Book of Parables, the second part. Really fascinating. And he says the vision of the post-flood earth is Edenic and utopian. I think that's fascinating because it shows makes us wonder, is this speaking of the end of days or about right after the flood? And I think he's doing both. If I was to give my personal opinion, I might have heard this somewhere, so I don't want to try to claim this is Paxton's opinion or Paxton came up with this. But it seems that maybe he's doing both. Maybe the Lord in this passage, of course, the Lord being a fictional character here, because I don't think that this is actually prophecy. But basically, in the story, God is giving a prophecy, and the prophecy both relates to things happening immediately after the flood, but also things that take place in the future, to where when a Second Temple Jew is reading this, he sees that some of it was fulfilled, but not all of it yet. And it seems that a lot of what Michael was supposed to do seems like things that maybe are for the end times, which is really so. To end off today, that's right, y'all. This is going to be a shorter episode of the book club. But to end off today, I want to look at Uriel, a special mission by God. And that mission is found in 1 Enoch 10, 1 through 2. He was one of the 4 angels that was praying to God, asking hey, God, what are you going to do about the evil on the earth? And he has a mission. God has a mission for him. And that mission is found in 10, 1 through 2. In it, God says, then the Most High sent Uriel to the sons of Lamech and said to him, go to Noah, tell him in my name, hide thyself and reveal to him the end that is approaching, that the whole earth will be destroyed and a deluge is about to come upon the whole earth. So that's 1 Enoch 10, 1 through 2. And what's interesting about that, you might read that and go, oh, interesting. So Uriel, an angel, goes down and talks to Noah saying, hey, hide, the flood's coming. But when we go to the Bible, when we go to Genesis, notice it doesn't say an angel talked with Uriel. An angel talked with Noah. This is what it says in Genesis 6:13. It says, then God said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. And behold, I am about to destroy them with the earth. So it seems there that It says God said to Noah. It doesn't say the angel said to Noah. It says God said to Noah. And so that's interesting right there. Like, does this mean that, is it saying Yahweh said to Noah in Genesis 6, but in Enoch it's saying an angel? If so, how does that work? Like, did the author of First Enoch not know what Genesis says? So I don't think that's the answer. And instead, this is going to be what we talk about next week. We're going to talk next week about some ideas about why does First Enoch have Uriel telling Noah what to do, but the Bible says God told Noah what to do. And as a little snippet of this, we're going to look at what Michael Heiser says in his commentary. He says, instead of speaking directly to Noah, the son of Lamech, as in the biblical account, Genesis 6, 8 through 9 and 13, God sends the archangel Uriel. This chapter has God acting through the agency of archangels in all the particulars of his response to the aftermath of the Watchers' rebellion and the mayhem caused by their offspring, the giants. So the question is, why does First Enoch seem to replace God with an angel? And y'all, I am so excited. Next week, next Monday, 7 p.m. Central Time, we're going to talk about some ideas on why that is so. And to give you a little rundown, so first off, I want to say I might be going into territory that might not be what scholarship thinks. So I just want to clarify again, I am not a scholar on the Book of Enoch. I like to say I'm a nerd. I'm just a nerd for the Book of Enoch. I've read it, enjoy it, read people's thoughts on it, but like I'm not a scholar who's written academic articles and things like that about Enoch. So I want to just clarify that what I'm saying might not be found in scholarship. So take that with like a grain of salt for this, but also I still think it's worth sharing. And for that, my thesis that we're going to bring out next week is that the reason is because of this idea of the angel of the Lord in the Old Testament, and how in the Old Testament there seems to be an angel that I've heard it described by the Bible Project like that's distinct from God yet is God. There's something in the Old Testament about this angel that can call himself the Lord or Yahweh, but he's also distinct because he's the angel, he's the messenger. And I think that whenever the Second Temple Jews are writing down First Enoch, they're looking at that idea and applying that idea to Uriel. So excited. This will be one of the first times I think I've really ever taught on the angel of the Lord. And it's a topic I really love. We have a YouTube video that we made with two authors of a book about the angel of the Lord that I would highly recommend you check out. That was such a fun thing. And even more importantly than recommending the video, I'd highly recommend you check out their book. It's called like The Angel of the Lord, a Biblical, Theological, Historical Approach or something like that by Doug Van Dorn and Matt Fortman. All right. And that's the end. Another episode of the Book Club of Enoch. My name is Paxton Pritchett. I hope that y'all have a good day. Not good from your perspective necessarily, but from God's perspective. He knows what is truly good. Not good in our own sight, but good in his sight. All right. Y'all have a wonderful day. Love y'all. And we will see you next time.